They keep broadcasting it across the radio and the TV station, but I really didn't believe it would happen. But it did. Well, the wind picked up, for one thing. And then I started hearing these noises outside, like tin flying across the house and stuff like that. It even sounded like cars and stuff floating in the air, crashing into each other. And it just seems like all of a sudden the back door just flew open. It's like something in a horror movie or something. One morning came, and finally we could see daylight. And when I walked to the door and I looked outside, you wouldn't even believe you actually live here. Everything was so rearranged.
Boats were everywhere, houses were destroyed, and the trees were all gone. I mean, it was such a shock. Involuntarily, tears were streaming down my face. And so we got to the driveway, and the front lawn was a lake with fish just swimming and shrimp and everything just swimming out there in the front lawn. So I waded through all that, and I came to the back door, and I came in, and it was terrible. All the furniture that could get through the door had gone through the door. And then I went in there and saw fish on my velvet love seat. I threw it off. I was very angry at that shrimp and fish. I tell you, I was very angry and sad. I'll never eat another one. and went through here, and everything was just totally destroyed.
The McIntyres and the Whites both suffered significant loss. Both survived Hugo, one of the most devastating hurricanes of this century. But that is not all they had in common. Both experienced Christian love through the gift of MDS, Mennonite Disaster Service.
I just could not believe it was actually happening to me. I'm getting a new house, you know. And every night my children and I, we talk about it. When they poured the foundation, we keep walking around it, picturizing what it looked like. And as it grows, we grow along with it. I'm used to working for everything. And I came up that way. Everything that we had, we worked for it. I know many times we went to bed hungry, and it was because my mother and my father refused to go and get help, and we just do without. So it's hard to accept gift. I appreciate it, but there's a lot of tears in it.
Within days after the hurricane, volunteers began cleanup work. Backed up by 4 decades of experience, MDS project coordinators follow a clear plan of action when disaster strikes.
If I was ever involved in a major disaster like this again, the Mennonites are the people to call. They're the ones that provided the most assistance to us and were able, as I saw it, to help people the most. I think out of all the organizations, they seem to have the best plan in dealing with disaster response.
Following the cleanup, volunteers began reconstruction work. Marlon and Nancy Gingrich were 2 of the project coordinators for the work in South Carolina. They faced a monumental challenge. More than 7,000 MDS volunteers from Canada and the United States made the trip to South Carolina. Their purpose, to help those in need because of the Hugo disaster.
I had almost as good as no experience in construction. I mean, I knew the roof went on top, and that was kind of it. The thing that I learned a lot from was to lean on volunteers that had been there. They were all really, really eager and anxious to help.
Coordination meant feeding, housing, and planning work for as many as 300 volunteers a week.
I would be up usually by 5:30 or 6 o'clock at the latest.
I always got up a half hour earlier to help with breakfast. We had at least 20 and often up to 50 people in the warehouse that we had to make breakfast for them and then fix all these lunches for everyone. And of course, supper in the evenings. Other than that, I was always in the office.
What Marlon and Nancy lacked in construction skills was more than made up for with their management skills and with their ability to relate with people. Since their first MDS assignment in Saragossa, Texas, they have also served in Iowa, Arkansas, California, Louisiana, and North Carolina. But taking on new assignments has not always been easy.
Every time that we went, we hated to go because it was a matter of leaving home, and it's also we was afraid of the unknown. But I don't think we ever went home wishing that we wouldn't have gone.
Marlon recalls that prayer was at the core of his work as coordinator. He prayed often for guidance in decision-making.
We could have been frustrated and discouraged, but you just kind of took them because there's nothing we can do about it. We didn't come down here to be frustrated. We came down here to help people. My motto that means the most to me is this: I tried to do what I thought Jesus would do in that situation. And I think most of it has to do with lots and lots of prayer.
Newlywed David Stoner traveled from Mount Joy, Pennsylvania to help with the reconstruction.
I was in a van loaded with 9, and we met at Monk's Corner, and we were sent to McLeansville. And Stuart and Elaine McIntyre lived there, and they had a cottage out back where us 9 stayed in. I wish I would have had 10 weeks to give to do more. Almost depressing what you couldn't get done, but when you look at what you did do and the people that just thanked you for doing it, it made you feel good.
The work they did was invaluable, and you thank God every night for people like that.
Whenever there is a disaster, MDS volunteers begin to mobilize. Within hours after a tornado swept through the town of Heston, Kansas, hundreds of volunteers poured into the area to begin work. Jim Fisher reported on their work on the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour.
MDS? Never heard of them? Well, if you've been in an earthquake in California, or hurricane in South Carolina, or just about any other natural disaster in recent years, you know MDS. They're the folks who just show up, unbidden, unassuming, and undemanding, and go to work, as corny as it sounds, to help folks they see as their brothers and sisters, no matter who they are, who by their very presence seem to bring order out of chaos, not just with their hammers and saws, but also with a pat on the back, saying things will surely get better.
More than 40 years ago, a group of people gathered in Heston to discuss what later became MDS. Peter Dick was there. He was pastor of the Eden Mennonite Church in Mountainridge, Kansas, and chaired some of the early meetings.
I read from James 2:26, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." And then I reported on the work of various relief and service organizations during the past year. This is part of discipleship. Follow Jesus in the way of helping, ask no questions. And that's the nice part about MDS. You can contribute a day, you can give a week or a month, God bless you, come. Anybody can do it. Youth, men, women, even older people, and do it, yes, as on to the least of these.
Peter reads from Katie Funk Weeby's book, Day of Disaster.
According to the minutes of the meeting, it was a general feeling that Mennonites should unite under one organization so that they could work more effectively, devoting less time and money to administration and more to service. That is, I would say, the beginning of MDS when it was organized.
Mennonite Disaster Service soon became a part of MCC, Mennonite Central Committee. MDS units were eventually organized in many states and provinces throughout the United States and Canada. North American volunteers, at the request of MCC, have also assisted in disaster response efforts in countries such as Nicaragua, Jamaica, and Armenia. The New England MDS unit is one of the more recent ones. Ted Shattuck, a former state police officer, devotes a lot of time to coordinating that unit.
I became a Christian not because of evangelism, but in spite of it. I might not be able to express my faith quite so well standing on someone's doorstep with a Bible, but I can take my apron and my hammer and climb up on their roof and show them a few things, I guess. That, for me, is a good way to articulate my faith.
Ted feels that MDS has work opportunities for everyone, no matter the age or skill level. He smiles as he explains.
So if you're a certified broom operator or a certified shovel operator, we have a place for you.
Even so, finding volunteers in New England during times of disaster has been difficult. Ted sees two reasons for this.
Number one, you're not dealing with a traditional Mennonite church. you're dealing primarily with people like myself who did not grow up in the tradition. The other problem, of course, is we have a lot of people in New England who work a 9-to-5 job.
Gary and Louise Bishop and their children Kenrick and Jared live in Boston, Massachusetts. Both Gary and Louise served as MDS volunteers in their younger days. Now they find it difficult to break away.
For me, it's more of a stages in life question. Part of it has to do with the age of our children.
A big goal of ours is to vacation with a purpose. And I think that that's one way that MDS can fit into the urban setting.
Just as in marriage, love is a decision, not just an emotion. So it is with MDS type experience. It's a decision, and for ourselves and for teaching our kids, modeling love means doing things for people in need. So that's based on scripture, that if we have the material needs, ability to fulfill the needs of others, and don't, how can we say that we have love?
Jones and Sharon Reimer of Steinbeck, Manitoba, made the long trip to South Carolina. Like Gary and Louise, Jones and Sharon wanted a vacation with a purpose. Why did they do it?
Following Christ's example and helping others, that's what he did on earth when he was here. That was his mission, to help other people.
Us being Christians and being Christ's examples here on earth, he has instructed us to share of ourselves with others.
In times of disaster, there are countless opportunities to serve and to share our faith. For Jones and Sharon and the many others who work with MDS every year, the 1 John 3:18 directive is clear. Let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action. Mennonite Disaster Service invites you to lend a helping hand in times of disaster.